I just wanted to catch up with you about Reading Prison. It's nearly 10 years since I broke the news on the show that Reading Prison was closing, and then a few weeks later I was standing outside as the final inmates left. Since when, as everyone knows, it's stood empty, nothing doing, costing money, not being turned into an arts centre, not being turned into flats, not being turned into anything, despite us all asking endless government ministers about it. You've met the new prisons minister to talk about this. This is Damien Hines, who, from my brief dealings with him, seems like a good guy. What was your encounter like, and what promises have you got out of him?
So yesterday myself and Alok Sharma met him. So we had our own issues that we were pursuing, as well as the bigger national and international ones that you talked about earlier. We had a frank but sort of reasonable meeting with him. The ministry is still pursuing its preferred bidder, and they're relatively confident that will lead to a sale, and we've once again called on them to look at an alternative.
So this is just for anyone who's not across all the detail of this. The Ministry of Justice has always said they want to get best value for the taxpayer. How that equates to leaving it standing empty for 10 years, I've no idea. But they always seem to want to find a developer who has got the gumption and the money to turn Reading Gaol, a historic and listed building, into posh flats, because they think they'll get more money that way than by allowing it to be turned into an arts centre. And they're still saying that same thing, even now.
Yes, you've summarised it very well, and we actually challenged them quite persistently on that. Effectively, they've used up over £1.2 million, maybe more than that, in mothballing the jail for the last 10 years. And that's obviously a large loss of public money, which we think is dreadful. However, we're still pursuing them to look at an alternative, and we believe that it's quite possible that there could be a council, an arts community-led alternative. Reading Borough Council has put a bid in which hasn't been rejected, and the MOJ confirmed that bid is still on the table yesterday. But the issue is to provide them with sufficient reassurance and encouragement that other funding will be available from the arts community, and that's what we've now got to continue to work on.
Right. I mean, buyers have come and gone over the last 10 years. Quite often it's been the case that the jail's sort of been sold subject to contract and then it all falls through. Do we know where we are with the buyer they're dealing with at the moment?
Well, they seem to be quite optimistic about this buyer, but personally I have serious reservations, partly because of, exactly as you said, the previous bid, which was run by another speculative commercial developer, fell through once they understood the complexities of the site. And we do think that there's a much better route forward with a less commercial approach that actually will build on the heritage, rather than in the sense of wanting to retain heritage and have it as a key asset for the site.
Do you get the idea that Damien Hines is the minister who's going to sort this? Because we've had different sort of vibes from different prisons ministers, justice secretaries and prime ministers who we've asked about it on the show over the years. Some are more interested than others, but still nothing's been done. Do you get the sense this bloke is going to fix it?
I think it's possible. He's certainly better than some of the other ones that we've dealt with, who've been polite but haven't really engaged with the issue properly. So there is some hope there, and I think what we now need to do is try and really persuade the ministry and step up our efforts in the coming weeks. And you may have seen, Andrew, that there's a march in Reading Town Centre. If I could just mention that as well, in terms of members of the public getting involved in this. That's on the 25th of March, starting in the Hexagon at 12 noon. But yes, in the coming few weeks, we want to try to firm up the offers from the arts world, but also to really persuade the ministry to take more notice of them, because I am impressed with Banksy's offer of help, and I think that it's very important to have potential funders like him on side, and to recognise that they might not be conventional business people, but they could offer a lot of value.
It just occurred to me that, you know, if the polls are right and whatever, there's going to be an election in the next 2 years. It may be that your party's in government. It may be your Justice Secretary and your Prisons Minister who I'm constantly haranguing to fix this if it's not done before then.
Well, I hope they would see it in a different light. And I have actually had an initial conversation with Steve Reed, who's the Shadow Justice Secretary, but I mean, it's a long, long way away. And I suspect that the next general election will be right at the very end. Given the state of the polls, I think the current government will try to cling on to the bitter end, unfortunately.
Matt, thank you. That's Matt Rodder, who's the Labour MP for Reading East. Want to have you say 0808 100 5100. We'll take some calls in the next hour.